Ho 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 and welcome to Digi December. That's right, for the entirety of the rest of December there are going to be at least 2 videos a week covering all kinds of things. We're going to do some Christmassy videos or holiday themed Digimon videos as well as just regular videos throughout the month of December. And why not celebrate the festive spirit by talking about fake Digimon? It'll all make sense soon, I promise. This is the history of SPOOF Digimon. Happy holidays! There are already tons of Digimon, over 1,400 and counting as the days go on. But something interesting about the franchise is that all around the world where it is shown, spoof Digimon end up being created. They're created for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's for a silly bit inside the show itself, sometimes it's for advertising purposes, and sometimes it's for people's blogs. Yes, really. So let's just kick things off. First of all, I want to give a quick shout out to Digimon Cross Wars because there's a lot of spoof Digimon in Cross Wars, but they're all kind of along the same theme, so I don't want to go on and on about all of them, but I'll quickly list them all. There is Bakomon and Pawn Chessmon, Balidobamon, Betsumon and Omni Shoutmon, Dondo Kosomon, Akakimon and Shima Unimon, Lawizamon and Wisemon, Giga Breakdamimon, Gum Clockmon, Harpymon and Gigimon, Famon and Pillowmon, Kote Volmon, Locomon and Dorulumon, Metal Life Kuwagamon and Kamemon, Metal Shoutmon, Myotismon and Yakimon, Ogamon and Mervamon, Pagubastemon, Patamon and Sparrowmon, Bellismon and Starmons, Quartzmon and Jokermon, Rook Chessmon and Deputymon, Submarimon and Zeke Greymon, Superstarmon and Ganimon, and a Tuarmon form of Voltramon. That's a big bloody list. Can you imagine why I'm not going through it? Because there's not that much interesting to say about each one. And ultimately the joke is always kind of the same. It's just, haha, what if these two things crossed over? But that's not going to happen today. So again, there's not that much to say about them. I do want to give a quick shout out to Metal Shoutmon, Kote Volmon, and Pillowmon plus Infamon because I just like those designs. Metal Shoutmon is a fun idea and nod back to kind of like Metal Greymon and such. Kote Volmon is just Kotemon, but instead of Kendo, he does guns, which is great. Obviously digifusing with Deputymon. And then Infamon and Pillowmon is just, you know, before Infamon, when he first digivolves in our war game and he's in that kind of pod and then he expands, I always thought that looked like a comfy pillow, and now it is a comfy pillow, and I'm just like, give it to me. But yeah, maybe we can do a video another time about all of those Cross Wars ones, but there's just so many, it would make the video like 40 minutes long. Let's get on with it. So, starting with perhaps one of the most famous spoof Digimon, it's Angelamon. If you were a watcher slash fan of the Saban dub of Digimon growing up, you will know all about Angelamon. I talked about this before in my Strangest Crossovers video, but basically what happened was Angela Anaconda had like a little mini movie before the Digimon movie that was all Digimon themed, involving her fantasizing herself becoming Angelamon. She would fight Ninimon, who was Nanette, who was kind of an antagonist in Angela Anaconda, piloting a Megazord of the teacher, which always felt a little bit weird because Digimon didn't really do Megazords. And then she's joined by Tinamon and Johnnymon, and again, this is not good, this is stupid, it's fine for little kids, I guess. I've always hated this Angela Anaconda promo bumper thing because it's so dumb. It doesn't even really understand what Digimon is very well. For example, Angelamon looks like Tai for some reason, not like Greymon. They just look like big versions of themselves. It's more like an Ultraman fight than anything. Like Ultraman meets Sentai, and Nanette's kind of like piloting the mech, and they're basically Ultramen. It's a weird fucking thing, man. I never liked Angelamon, but technically it is a spoof Digimon, and so is Johnnymon, Tinamon, and Ninimon, so them's the breaks, kids. Okay, next up on the list are spoof armor digivolutions of the original Digimon Adventure Digimon from the Digimon Adventure 02 CD, Armor Evolution to the Unknown. This CD had no official translation, but basically it was kind of like a guide into 02, featuring like Valentine's Day and things like that, and ultimately the core conceit was a bunch of 02 Digimon using Digimental / Armor Digi-Eggs to digivolve themselves into forms that we didn't see in the show, and still didn't see ever because it's an audio drama. This is the CD that got us Buchimon, but also led to some spoof Digimon. In this audio drama, there is a segment where basically they say things are no longer making any sense. So again, it's jokey, it's not real. And all the adventure Digimon get to use Digimentals. This leads Tentamon to Armor Digivolve into the Blubbering Knowledge Selfishmon or Jikochumon, Palmon to Armor Digivolve to the Purity Under the Sunlight Chia Girlmon, which is just a cheerleader, Biomon to Digivolve into the Repeating Love Hilminamon or Kukanchomon, Gomamon to Armor Digivolve to the Honesty on the Shore Urashimamon, Gabumon to Armor Digivolve into the Friendship from a Long Time Ago Red Foxmon, and Agumon to almost Armor Digivolve but then never get round to it. He kind of breaks down into a bunch of mumbling. It's pretty funny. And then they all start giving each other different names, but again, it's a silly, spoofy CD drama, and it's not real. It is a joke segment. But I do adore this idea. I wish they'd have explored it outside of something jokey, because Armor-Digivolutions for the original Adventure Digimon is something I have craved for years. I would love to see them. So if anyone ever wants to redesign and legitimately design those Digimon, especially in an official medium, please do. It would be chef's kiss. Next up on the list are Paimon, Chokimon, and Gumon, and these basically are just rock, paper, scissors. When Blastmon invades the human world in the Cross Wars manga, Christopher challenges him to a game of rock, paper, scissors and invents this big, rich backstory about these three Digimon who are in fact literally just rock, paper, scissors. I haven't read this manga, but I do like the idea of a human kid trying so hard and having such belief in his ability to defeat an evil Digimon that he's like, okay, rock, paper, scissors, I'm going to invent a backstory for this and fuck you up. The designs are very minimal. You only really see shadows, but you know, they're fine. They're okay. I wish I could talk more about them, but the black and white manga pages, like, ooh, super exciting. Next up on the list, we have Hanamon and Hanamon plus Mervamon. This one's really simple. The author of the Cross Wars manga also authored another manga called Element Hunters, and the protagonist of that is a character called Hannah Weber, who is an idol. So what is Hanamon? Well, in an issue of Element Hunters, Hannah imagines herself as Hanamon, a Digimon, because again, they're referencing the fact that the author does Digimon as well, and when she becomes Hanamon, which is basically just the head of Hannah Weber, she can also cross-fusion into Hanamon plus Mervamon, which is just a giant Hannah Weber head on a very small Mervamon-ish body. Oh, and Hanamon also digivolves into King Hanamon, which is just a very big, fat version of Hanamon. Can relate. Next up is Hogmon and Porkimon. These are another spoof Digimon specifically from Digimon Adventure, the actual show. TK and Patamon are separated from the rest of the Digi Destined, and TK really wants to be back with them and starts to wonder if Patamon could digivolve, what it would digivolve into to help him out. TK imagines both Hogmon and Porkimon, which are just little pigs that Patamon could digivolve into, and then Patamon quickly reminds him that he's not a pig. I always thought this moment was cute, and I like in the anime when the Digi Destined try and like picture what their Digimon are going to digivolve into, and they always get it very, very wrong. Next up is Hubmon, and it is a USB hub snake. Now honestly, out of all the spoof Digimon, this is one that I could legitimately believe was a real Digimon, but it isn't. Hubmon is kind of the mascot of Hubmon's Doku Doku Hublog, which was a developer's blog for the two games Digimon Stories Super Cross Worlds Red and Blue and Digimon World Redigitized, and has not been seen since those blogs were closed down. But Hubmon actually has some really interesting stuff with its design and etymology. Obviously it's a snake and a USB hub, which is cool, and it combines those two ideas of like snaking wires. But also in Japanese, hub is pronounced habu, and habu refers to certain venomous snakes in Japan, most notably the Okinawan habu. But the extra little cherry on the top of this one is that the producer of these two Digimon games was called Kazumasu Habu. So yes, it was Habu's hub, which is just really cool. I really like that. They could make it a real Digimon if they wanted, I wouldn't be mad. Next up is Kaminarimon. This one's going to be super quick. In the book Digimon Frontier Original Story, Things That Want to Be Told, each of the Frontier Digidestined writes a letter, and Junpei, or JP, imagines a situation where he would bribe something called Kaminarimon to attack Zoe with chocolate so that he could like swoop in, save the day, and win her heart. Pretty fucked up situation to imagine there, JP, but whatever, bud. And his conclusion isn't even like, no, don't attack women. His conclusion is, nah, Zoe's too good at fighting, she'd just defeat Kaminarimon. There's nothing we know about this Digimon other than it's kind of like a dummy name used in the Digimon World games, and that Kaminari means lightning. Now we're going to be talking about another one of those hypothetical Digivolutions I talked about before, and this is Mega Dancemon. When Davis and Vmon are imagining what Vmon's Digivolution to Champion could be, Davis imagines Mega Dancemon. Although I should be clear that Mega Dancemon is actually called Ultra Angemon in the original Japanese, which is obviously kind of playing up the idea that Davis wants to one-up TK and is kind of jealous of Takaru and Hikari's relationship. Do you see how I just go back and forward between Japanese and English names like it doesn't even matter? Because it doesn't. This design is honestly terrible, but you can kind of imagine Davis coming up with something stupid like this, especially to kind of one-up TK, so I kind of dig it. Next up on the list is Mega Mighty Kentamon, or Megalo Kentamon. Digimon. And also Black War Kazumon. I forgot about Black War Kazumon. I'm so sorry, Kazu, please forgive me! When trying to convince them to become their Digimon partners, Kenta and Kazu tell Jijimon and Babamon about Digimodify, which then leads Babamon to pretend to Digimodify herself. In that moment, Kenta tries to think about what he would look like if he was a Digimon, and what I like about this is that Megalo Kentamon, or Mega Mighty Kentamon, actually has a pretty decent design. Obviously what it turns out to be is just Kenta with bandages around his head and a brush in his hand, but the imagined Mega Mighty Kentamon is pretty cool. Black War Kazumon is kind of a black dinosaur Digimon with green eyes. It's got a big flowing cape. Again, it is a pretty original idea and I really like it. It's a pretty original design. I like the armor here. Like, I would like to see this Digimon maybe renamed, but kind of dig it a lot. When you compare it to Hogmon, Porkymon, and Mega Dancermon / Ultra Angemon, it feels like real effort went into this imagined Digimon, so I'm okay with it. Very quickly, I want to mention Okunimon, which is just a Gunimon pretending to be a Kabuki. That's it. That's the whole bit. Next up is a Medamon. I talked about this also in my strangest crossovers in Digimon history video, but basically, as I said in that video, it is a crossover between Omegamon / Omnimon and Medabot. You can go click this card wherever it is to find out more information on Omedamon if you would like to. But ultimately, I want to talk about Woodwoodymon. Woodwoodymon was designed by the Kenji Watanabe, who is responsible for a lot of stuff like the Digimon card game and a bunch of other things in the Digimon franchise. It is a homage to Woodwoody Takabayashi, who is one of the developers on the Digivice version 15, and of course is a wooden version of Woody from Toy Story, a Wood Woody. The euphemisms are going to be wild on this one, I can already tell. Can't show enough is Wood Woody, I get it. But I think this is neat, and it also reminds me of Kingdom Hearts 3, so, you know, I've got to love that. Finally on the list, we have reached the Christmas, the holiday thing that we were talking about at the very start of the video.
Snowballmon! Digimon 2!
Snowmanmon!
Who's he?
Snowmanmon is a festive Digimon.
Oh, it's the Fox Kids way of saying Happy Holidays!
It's the Fox Kids way of saying happy holidays. Yes, Snowballmon and Snowmanmon finish our list, and they are spoof Digimon created for a Fox Kids bumper to promote Digimon and I guess Fox Kids as a whole. What is interesting about Snowballmon though is obviously that it digivolves into Snowmanmon, and when it does, there is actually Japanese in the swirling evolution sequence, which might not seem that weird, but then if you think about it, there is no Japanese equivalent to this. Snowballmon and Snowmanmon were created exclusively for Fox Kids, so why is there Japanese? Well, obviously it's to blend in more into Digimon. I think the idea for kids who don't understand it's Japanese is that it's like digicode kind of thing, so you would expect it to be there for a Digivolution, but also it pays a nice homage to the fact that Digimon is from Japan. They could have just ignored that. Something interesting to note is that Japanese text that appears when it digivolves translates to Yukidama Kaibutsu, which means snowball monster. They really went the extra mile for this one, and that's why I love it so much. And then once it has digivolved into Snowmanmon, the Japanese text says Yukidama Kaibutsu, which translates to Snowman Monster. Again, such little attentions to details, but I really appreciate it for this tiny Fox Kids bumper. What is funny though is they put this extra effort into the evolution segment, but then when they did the Digi Analyzer for Snowmanmon, they copied it from Myotismon, which means the attacks that Snowmanmon knows are Night Raid and Bloody Stream. That's right, Snowmanmon can attack you with its blood. Such a glaring oversight when they just put a lot of effort into something else, so funny. And that is the history of ostensibly every spoof Digimon. There are a couple that didn't make the list. Obviously I could deep dive more on Cross Wars, and I also didn't do Reggae Palmon or Punk Agumon. The reason being, although the definition of spoof Digimon is pretty thin here, it's not even like an imagined different form of Agumon or Palmon, it's just them in a wig. And now you could say the same thing for Okunimon, but there's a little bit more detail there, so include it, don't include it, but honourable mention to Punk Agumon and Reggae Palmon. But let me know, what are your favourite spoof Digimon? I obviously lean towards Snowballmon and Snowmanmon, but are there others I've missed? Let me know down below, be respectful about it. As always, liking and commenting helps immensely, subscribing means the world to me. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like the content at a future date, but happy Digi December. I will see you. Actually, the next video will be a video on the new V-Pet that is going to get announced soon, which I'm very excited about. It seems to be heartbeat related, which is very exciting. But until next time, I hope you're having a wonderful December. Editing Khan here. I also need to give a shout out to my channel members who joined up between me filming this video and editing it. Shoutouts in particular to Nikolai Schlenter and Tippy for becoming my Tamer level channel members. I really didn't want to advertise channel memberships, I didn't want to talk about it, but I guess people saw it, so now there are channel members. You can become one as well. You get all sorts of emotes as well as lots of perks of being a channel member, so if you want to sign up you can, but it really is optional. I'm basically discouraging it, and I will see you next time when we go digital.